And again, it's a very interesting game in a very good way. I don't want to say too much until y'all actually see it. So, just loading it up now. And there are several different servers, by the way. So, for example, I'll show you here. So, as you can see, there are a ton of servers. There's EU, there's NA, but there's also a lot of independent servers or personal servers. And you can see a lot of that as well, which is really neat. And a lot of people have created that. So there's a lot of opportunity, whether you want to have your own private server, or if you want to actually just do an official server. So there's a lot of opportunity. But as we dive into the game, I will say that if you want to play this game and you're going to do a private server, make sure you have enough people on that server. This game is absolutely not a solo endeavor, and we will dive into why that is in just a little bit here. But if you wanted to just play this game solo and be able to do your own private server where you could do it solo, not worth it. Because the reason why is because so many elements are dependent on group play that if you do it solo, you're only going to be able to enjoy maybe 5 or 10% of the game. And that's honest to God truth. You're not going to be able to enjoy the full range of this game by yourself. And thus far, at least with the alpha servers, they've been putting on about 20 people per faction because there are 3 different factions. And so with that, you have a total of 60 people to a server. And so ideally, you want to at least, I would say, get at least a few people to each faction. And again, though, we'll get into more details in just a second, but just know that. If you want to play it solo, this is not like a Conan Exiles, where you could go at it solo, because we played that on stream quite a bit, actually. I have several hundred hours in Conan Exiles right now. And, with that game, you could be a hermit if you wanted to. You could be the nomad, traveling around by yourself doing stuff. It's going to be tough, but you can do it. In this game, though, not the same. Not so much.
I was going to say, actually, they looks like they just started Australian Alpha 1. It's only been around for 1 day, and they don't have a lot of people on it. I'm getting almost the same ping on that as I am on the North American side, so I don't know if you wanted to try something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing, too, is the fact that the ping has been actually fairly high with their servers. Whether it's NA or EU, like Tatiana said, they've matched pretty well, and I don't know why. It's weird. I'm not sure on what the reasoning is with that, but I would imagine too that part of this is to stress test the all the different servers and really just try to figure out what's going on and how they can improve on it, of course.
Yeah, because the other thing I noticed the other day was that you can't if you go to your server that you usually go to, but there are 20 out of 20 on each faction, you actually have to wait in queue, which I know was happening with Conan on the official servers for a while there too, because they only had I think a 40 cap.
Yeah.
Maybe. Which, I don't know, to me that's always frustrating, because it's like, well, I have time to play the game now, not in an hour.
That's true, yeah, there was a queue for it. So we'll have to see how servers turn out, especially for early access and beyond. And hey, Alan, how's it going? What's going on?
So, did you want to do the OS?
Honestly, why don't we go with the one we've been playing on? Because I want to show folks, because actually to go with Alan's question there, what is this game exactly? This is why we're doing this today, is we're going to be doing a walkthrough of it, so that way you all are familiar with it on whether you want to jump on the early access bandwagon or not for this game. And I kind of want to actually go onto that server because even though there are some people that are a little frustrating on that server, with that server, everyone can see everything that's already built up and get a sense of it.
Okay.
So we're going to jump into game here, and we're going to break down what are the different classes, what are the different things that you can take on. So, for instance, how big is the server? So again, it's going to be up to 60 people thus far. Basically, you have 3 factions. So you have the Revenant, the Order, and I'm trying to remember actually the 3rd faction now. Let me see here.
The Conclave.
The Conclave, thank you. And so with that, they all have their own different storylines and everything else. And so with that, sorry, I'm kind of blanking out for a second. So you have the 3 different orders, and those 3 different orders have their own different storylines. But they're not really in-game as of yet. They're mostly online on their website. If you go through their early access roadmap, it does give you quite a bit of the elements of the story and what's happening. But either way, you're creating 3 different factions, and this game is PvE and PvP. So with this, the different factions are spread out across the map. So each area has their own part of the map, and you can traverse in the world, and you're able to actually attack one another or raid one another at any time that you want. But you're also fighting against beasts in the wild. So there are very majestical, fantastical beasts in this world that are very much inspired, of course, by real-life animals in this world.
It's like with an enemy vision.
It really is. I would say, sorry, there's a long time for these to render. There is a lot of, yeah. So as you can see, it took a long time to render, and whoa. There we go. And there's just a lot that goes into loading this game initially. But again, this is alpha. But so from here, you have 3 different factions. You start off in your main base. But the thing is that as you can see here, there's a main base already built. There's nothing here when you first start. So when you jump into the game day 1 with the other people that have chosen your faction, all you start off with, and I'll run through here, is this divinity stone, this tree here, and I'll run you through it here.
And no, you can't attack your same faction.
You can attack your same faction, but this game has done a very good job of balancing out certain systems to keep people from just KSing each other or doing damage to one another. So basically, you're trying to earn reputation in your faction. So even though you can attack each other if you wanted to, you actually lose faction status. And you really honestly want higher faction. So you want to be considered well up in your faction. So for instance, let me go into the faction here. If I can get to it. There we go. So here it says, for instance, okay, this is my faction, which is Order. I've chosen this one. There's 16 out of 20 people online right now. It lists all their names and lists their rank. So you have things like kin, appreciated, respected, trusted, just a multitude of different ranks. And of course, the higher you go up, you can go up all the way up to Elder. And this gives you more permissions on what you can do and the say you have on what happens in the base. And what kind of like what you decide on for how you want things to go about in this base. So you just start with that, and you start with these 4 stones here as well. Here, give me 1 second. There we go. That way you can see Tatiana's screen as well. So with this, you have different research stones. And I don't want to go too much into it yet, because I do want to break down the individual perspective first. But you start off with this and that tree. Everything else you build. So with this game, it's a mixture of the kind of cartoonish feel that like Dauntless or WoW has. And it's mixed with the survival and building aspects of Conan. And I think a little bit of like The Forest, if you've ever played that game as well. Because in this game, you don't just insta-build something. So you don't get the resources and just build wall. You have to get initial resources, build a frame, and then finding or create the resources to fill in that frame to make it a wall. And as you can see, everything you build has armor and HP to it. And as you upgrade it, it'll have more armor and more HP to it as well over time. And the building system, what you have to do is get initial resources, get all your tier 1 set up, And then you have to build what's called a building hammer. You get the resources, you create the building hammer, and then you just hit B. And B puts you into the actual build mode. And so from here, and again, they need to work on some of their UI here, because as you can see, the chat just kind of pops up over the menu system, and there's no way that I can tell thus far of getting rid of the chat. But as you can see, red means you can't put something in an area, green means you can. And then from there, you just left click and it puts it in place. Then you have to fill in that frame. And really what you're trying to do is build up this base. And the reason why you're trying to build up this base is because this game is about PvE meets PvP. So each faction is competing against one another to try to get to Valhalla. Basically, they want their spirits to raise up to the heavens. And so they're in a race. And what they're trying to do is collect souls. And by collecting these souls, you then deposit them into the Divinity Stone. The Divinity Stone holds those souls kind of like a bank. And that tree in the distance there, all factions have that tree. And what you see is you see the progression down at the bottom there, how it lights up. You're trying to get it to go all the way to the top so you can get to Valhalla basically and where you win. So with that aspect, you get spirits basically by going out at night. You'll see little things that look like will-o-wisps. You basically kill them in a way. You capture their spirit. You put it in the tree. You can also raid your other factions on the server, and you can actually break into their base, come to their tree, steal their souls, or their spirits, and put it into your Divinity Stone, thus raising that bar. So offense is good, but you also want a strong defense in this game, which is where the building comes into play. So you can build both for your clan and for personal. So for personal, you can build your own base, you can build your own, and I'll show you here actually, I can change structure. So you can build stairs, platforms, pillars, railing, ledges, foundations, foundation floors, walls, tells you resources and everything that you need. You can also repair and salvage, which is very much like Rust or like Conan Exiles and so forth. So yeah, it's got that kind of like WoW look. Some things like Fortnite in a way, absolutely. It's definitely got that kind of vibe. It's also got the beasts and the fighting very similar to Dauntless, even though it's not about monster hunting. There just happens to be monsters. But yeah, it's kind of a mixture of all of that. But it's very unique in its own right. It's like it seems to have taken inspiration from a lot of different elements, a lot of different games. But they've created their own unique personality to it. So as you can see, of course, you build your base, you build your defenses, even things like spikes. And what's really unique about this is not only are you trying to raid the other factions, as well as survive, because you have to make your own food. You have to hunt it and cook it. You have to find water resources in order to drink. You have to worry about your weight limit and not going over encumbered. But you also have to build your tools. So, what I really like is that they have all these different systems or these different wheels that you can, once you build your tools, your weapons, you can easily just pop it up. So Q is for tools. You can bring up a mallet, which is only functional for breaking down stone. A sickle, which is only functional for breaking down plants and plant fibers. Your spirit hatchet for wood, and then your spirit pick, which is for mining purposes, for getting ore.
Fun fact: when you first start, you have to actually craft all that stuff, and then I died a few times, of course, and each time I had to run back to my body and get my stuff. But this time around, and this was after the latest reckoning, I think, but I had just died, and I came back. I actually had all the tools already. It was very strange. They
might already be trying to make some changes, because in this game too, not only is it PvE, not only is it PvP, not only is it building survival, but also you can lose your stuff. So when you die, your body stays where it was left, and you have to run and get it. But anyone can loot your body. So if anyone runs by, they can pick the stuff off your body, even if it's the same faction. And as far as I can tell, there is no faction hit for actually taking stuff off someone else's body. And I think because in the same respect, you're all supposed to be working together in the faction because you're all trying to survive to get to Valhalla, right? So they want people to sometimes help each other out. So if you died in a place where you can't really get to your body in time, you might have someone else then help loot it or get some of the supplies off to then take it over back to base. But as I mentioned too, again, you can have your clan base and then you can have your own personal bases. So those personal bases are off in the distance there, but then you also have your clan base. And really people want to make sure that you keep separate your personal from what happens in the clan. So if you're going to use the different like construction tables and different building tools and stuff stored here on your base, it should be for the outpost or for the home base for your faction. They really want you to keep your personal stuff, of course, in your personal base, just to keep it separate, which makes sense.
Another cool feature, I think, of the tools is that if you use the left click versus the right click, you'll actually get different resources from the same source node, which is really cool, I thought.
Yeah, exactly. I really like that. How you strike. If you strike left to right on something with a tool, one resource in comparison to up and down, which is another one. It is a very unique factor to that, actually. It's well thought out. Yeah, WoW, Fortnite, Minecraft. Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it. It looks truly cool. It's got a very unique feel to it. You know, as you can see too, they have the tattoos that glow on the characters. That's to distinguish you from another clan. So other clans have those glowing tattoos as well, or I should say, sorry, factions have those glowing tattoos as well. And that way when you're on the battlefield, let's say we're here defending and there's a ton of enemies out there, but maybe there's some of our own people too. Those glowing tattoos, whether night or day, help you distinguish between a friendly and an enemy, which I really like. I think that's a very creative aspect. And of course, as you go through here, I mean, you can build a construction shop for building different tools and storage, fortifications, cosmetics as well, how things look. You can also have a sawmill or a lumber mill, stone cutters. You also have mysticism in the game, so like elements of magic through potions. So it's like basically like an alchemy base setup. And this helps you with different resources or the final things. You can also build tools here or upgrades to your spirit weapons or your spirit tools, like the empowered spirit hatchet. Basically, it helps you with getting more resources. And of course, some gear like furniture and torches. You also have your forges. I'll run up here. You have your brewer's bar for drinks and potions as well. You have tanning racks, and you can do like looms and stuff for fabrics for armors, as well as for weapons like bows. You have your explorer's lodge here. This is for elements for hunting, where you can build traps and whatnot. And then what you have here is a spirit stable. So the very unique thing about this game, though it's not really being utilized right now because there's a bug with the system, is that it's a lot like Ark. So if you're familiar with Ark, you'll be very familiar with what I'm about to describe. If not, this will be, it'll sound complex, but it's very cool. So with this game, you can take any beast, any animal in this game, and tame it. And each different beast or animal has its own specific specialty. So some animals that you tame will be perfect for mounts. So you'll be able to ride them around, like the wolves in this game. You can mount and ride around. Certain other animals are really good for inventory, where they will have like 50 inventory, and you can load it up with resources and supplies. There are other animals that are purely for combat, and you can throw them into combat both in a PvE situation and a PvP situation. Other mounts as well have their own specialties for resourcing, where they can resource more nodes than your tools can, so you use them for resourcing. So it's a very cool concept, but I will say the process is complex. Not that I'm going to test you on this, but basically you have to find the resources to make a potion to have you enter into the spirit world. And what you do is you also create a lure to send that animal you want into the spirit world as well. You fight them in the spirit world and you tame them. So there's a lot of resources, there's a lot of buildup before you can just tame. So it is a process. And actually here, I'll show you here, by the way. This is a corpse of someone, so it glows the color of your faction. So again, if there's multiple dead bodies and you're not sure whose faction is whose, you can tell. And you simply click F and you can see all their items. Now I'm not going to touch their stuff, but as you can see, you can take it off there if need be.
That's a good question, Alan. There is no map, which is frustrating for me, but from what we can tell, it's fairly large, because you haven't come across anybody from another faction yet.
No, it's been sort of rare where we've been coming across people from other factions, because the map is so big. Like, the map is truly, truly huge. So, you know, with that, it's a good size. But yeah, there is no actual map function, unfortunately. And here, I'll show you here. I hope this guy killed this wolf. This is how you butcher. You take your sickle or your hatchet. Actually, excuse me, just your hatchet. I apologize. And see, so if I right-click, I get thin leather scraps. If I left-click, I get meat. So how you cut impacts the type of resources that you get. And in this game, too, there are positive buffs and there are negative buffs, if you will. So, like, for instance, you see here Bloody Backpack. This says Bloody Backpack. The raw meat in your backpack is attracting unwanted attention. So, of course, whenever you kill and you put raw meat in your bag, you have that as a negative until you cook it. So there are different elements to this game that can impact you both positively and negatively, and you've just got to be aware of it. Oh, how big is the game as in gigabytes? That is a good question, actually.
Oh, a large boar bladder can hold water. It's a water skin. That's special.
That is true, yes. Sometimes you don't even have to make stuff. You can just kind of use what drops off the animals as a tool, too. But it does have a decay rate, though.
Yeah.
So anything that's natural will have a decay rate over time. Even your food will go bad if you don't eat it right away.
Which is similar to Conan and other kind of some survival games.
Right, exactly. I'm looking at least the alpha right now to see size-wise what we're dealing with.
And yeah, your food and water seems to go down very quickly. You can spend points, skill points to sort of mitigate some of that, but right now, at least in alpha, it's like every 3 seconds I have to go eat something.
Yeah, it can be very tough in the beginning when it comes to food and water. Once you level up high enough, there is a skill depending on the 4 archetypes you can pick, because there are 4 different classes in the game that you can pick from. And actually, I'll get to that next, but right now, this alpha is at 21,215 megabytes. So that's just the alpha. So it's hard to say when it goes to early access and everything else and over time what that will be like.
Oh shit, I'm gonna die again. Dang it. Does the wolf come in the water? Maybe not.
The wolves can run through water depending on its depth. Things won't in this game, though, things won't follow you to hell and back, though. So there is a limit to how far an enemy will chase you, an NPC, before it just gives up and runs back to its normal kind of spawn point or pathing. Though I will say, they do heal back up to 100% health. So like in many other RPG type games, where if an enemy gets out of distance, they heal up instantly and just reset themselves, it's the same in this game.
Does your body stay in the world when you log off? I don't think so.
At least not in the alpha. They may put a setting in there later, maybe, but I don't see this game doing it. I see them treating many of the elements like a WoW or like an EverQuest or games like that, where again, once you log off, your body's not there any longer. So just to show you here too, outside of the world building, right? Outside of the base building, outside of the tools, the weapons, which everything, by the way, weapon-wise thus far is range. It's all bows. No one has come across a single melee weapon. So swords, axes, shields, nothing. Like, those just aren't allowed. So just to show you, by the way, there are 4 classes that you can pick from in this game thus far. So there is Pathfinder, which is kind of like your Ranger of the Wilds, as it says here, and it's really about surviving. And then you have your Shaman, which is about connecting to the spirit world. Being able to gain health when you're in the spirit world, or being able to, at night, have more benefits like getting more harvest. Things like that. But there's also a Warlord, which is like a warrior type character that also has buffs to like help bolster you and strengthen you. Kind of like the Barbarian in Diablo in a way. And then what is the 4th class now? You have the Shaman, the Pathfinder, the Warlord.
Assassin.
Assassin, that's right. And the Assassin is your hardcore damage dealer. So they're all about stealth. They're all about massive maximum damage. Your Pathfinders are a lot like your resource hunters. They're like the hunter-gatherers that bring back to the base. The Shamans help with like the mysticism aspect, and they're really good for like taming. And the Warlords are just really good for when you get into especially PvP action. So over time, as you level, of course, you gain experience from everything you do. Building, destroying, killing, everything. You get experience, you level up. And when you pick your 2 core archetypes, you level up your levels. But there's more. And this is the crazy fact. So on top of the 2 skill trees that you have for the 2 archetypes you pick, you also have skills for your faction. So this game all of a sudden goes from being like WoW, Conan, it becomes like also in a way kind of like a Fortnite-esque because of the styling and the building, but also it becomes like Ark with the taming, and then suddenly throws you a curveball and it's like, by the way, this is like Risk. This is like Stratego. Because in this game, not only is it about fighting the enemy base, taking their spirits away from them, so that way you can reach that peak there, that meter at the top of that tree to reach Valhalla, but you can actually level up different things the clan as the whole can do. You do not level up your individual building skills. It's like all the skills you have here in your crafting, whether it's basic survival, tools and gear, crafting components, construction, weapons, ammo, armor, consumables, miscellaneous, you don't level those up. So in games like Conan, you level up your own individual abilities. Here, it's up to everyone to do stuff in order to level up so you can create the next tier O stuff. So you have your mysticism, you have your venturing, your construction, and your invention sections. So to give you an idea here. Hey Mongo, welcome dude, how's it going? It is a fun game. It's been a fun game. It's different though in many respects, so it takes a little bit to get it used to. So to give you an idea here, what you do is you go out in the world. The more things you kill and attack, you get these little insignias, these little sparks of adventure. If you go out and break down stones and build things, you get these little insignias called like sparks of construction. If you go out and create potions or tame or actually, funny enough, there are melons out in the world that you can eat and consume. They give you very little food, very little hydration, but it's something, especially when you're just starting. But those melons are actually used for making potions. And so it actually gives you sparks of mysticism. And then you get sparks of invention. And these little sparks, what you do is that you go into your stones. So you see here, spark of genius. Sorry, not spark of invention, spark of genius. You see I have 4 out of 5. If I wanted to level up for the clan, these locked containers, I would need at least 5 out of 5 spark of geniuses, and then I would research it. And as we keep increasing it, we're able to do more stuff concerning having locked containers for our clan. And so you keep doing stuff out in the world, and everyone does this. Goes out, gets as many sparks as they can, they bring it back, they research it and invest it in different things. So for instance, as you can see here, we've maxed out our refinery. So now we've upgraded our refineries and it'll allow us to create new resources and speed up our economic domination. Base reinforcement allows us to upgrade our walls to better withstand the coming reckoning. And we'll talk to you, and actually I'll have Tatiana describe to you what the reckoning is. But yeah, so you really invest in yourself when it comes to your skills of your classes that you pick, and then you invest in the clan, which will then help you with what you can build, what you can't build, and how you can make it stronger. So it really is. There's so much you can do. So for instance, with mysticism, you can have possessed sentry turrets. Spirit stable upgrade. You can upgrade your stable, which is where you store your mounts. Which, by the way, if your mounts die, if they get killed in combat, you can resurrect them. You just have to go to a spirit stable and bring them back. So that's a really nice thing. If you had a pain in the ass of a time trying to tame a specific beast, have no worries. You can resurrect them. And then you have your adventuring, so things like water skins, clothing, armor, backpacks. So in this whole system here is meant so that way people make sure that they team up and work together. So, you know, basically, if people don't spend time for the faction to help build up things, they're going to be stuck at tier 1 for their entire game. And that's not going to be fun for them. So it's really up for people working together to make sure that everyone can succeed, which is a really cool concept. They've really thought this through to make sure that no one is just trying to lone wolf it, or that no one is really trying to thrive off other people's work. You really all have to put something in.
Which can be tough if you are playing with a bunch of people you don't know, and if, like, let's say they're in a group. So I don't know. I'm like of two minds about this game. Like, I really like it. I like the way it looks. I like all the different kind of elements that it brings to the table, but I do like the option of having to just play by myself and not have to, like, you know, depend on others or have to feel like I have to contribute. You know, like, for example, if you join a server where, okay, this base is already built up, like, every time I spawn in there, I get an anxiety attack because I'm like, well, how the fuck, where do I get out? I don't know what the layout is, and I don't want to, like, sit around to, like, figure it out.
Right.
So, I mean, that in of itself is frustrating, and then to not be able to play unless you have, at the very least, 3 people, so you have one person in each faction if you did have your own server, is also a little frustrating. But again, if you have a group of people, you know, and I'm thinking of, like, WoW, right? When you have you're raiding with hundreds of people or something like that, right? Perfect. This type of game is definitely it. But if you're playing by yourself, or you don't have friends who enjoy this type of game, it can be rough to play, I think. And you have to find, hopefully you find a server with a group of people that matches the way that you like to play, and that you can, communicate with them and have a good time as well. But it's definitely a multiplayer game, and it's a whole lot.
A whole lot of multiplayer too, because it's not like you just go in and join in like a group. Like, okay, hey, this is my party. There are actually no parties in this game. There are factions, which you're innately a part of by jumping in the server, and then there are clans. So each faction can have multiple clans. You could be a clan of 3, you could be a clan of 10, and you can kind of do your own clan stuff too if you wanted to. I mean, there are a lot of elements in here that would make this like a pretty epic, like, role play game. So, like, if you're really into role playing and creating characters and, like, voicing those characters, that would be the way to do it. But the other kicker is, thus far, there is no VoIP in game. As far as I've seen, I have not come across it yet. So you have to be in a Discord, even if you want to even say anything vocally to people. Otherwise, as you can see in the upper right corner, you have to use the chat.
And again, because this is alpha, we're obviously not sure what they're going to release for the full game. But yeah, as it stands, you can't really chat with people unless it's text-based.
Yeah, and they're staying semi-tight-lipped on certain elements, of course. And how far can you get your character? That's a good question, Alan. It matters of strength and experience. So no one knows yet the maximum level because we've only been in in this closed alpha for a week. They've only ran this alpha for a week now, and they're going to close it out and automatically jump into early access as of the 31st of this month. So we're not sure exactly how high level you can get to. Like right now, I'm level 11, and it's taken me a lot to get it even to level 11. So it is a longer leveling process. So it wouldn't surprise me if you can get fairly high level in this game. But then again, well, before that, there's no way also of changing like your strength, your HP. Like you don't invest skill points or like experience points into your health or anything like that. But what can impact it is your armor. So the better the armor you have, the more kind of stuff you get with it. You get higher armor, max health, things like heat insulation, cold insulation, resistance to to dark or bleed, because there is bleed in here, and bleed will kick your ass really quickly.
But you can make bandages to stop it.
Exactly, and that's a huge plus, right? So, no, it seems like anything that can damage you, there's a way of fixing it, whether it's through a potion, a bandage, what have you. Yeah, as you can see here, you get basically like what's in white, the 30 armor, the 10 health, the 5 heat, 5 cold. That's kind of the automatic built-in for this type of armor. And the green is the one random element that just gets thrown on. So when you create these, if I created like 100 coarse thread pants, a lot of times that green kind of bonus will be different every single time. So sometimes it's 2 to critical damage, sometimes it's 2 to armor, sometimes it's bleed resist and dark resist. It all varies. And the other thing, just like with any other survival game, because the armor and stuff is what really gives you the perks and the bonuses to become stronger physically, you need to make sure that you fix the durability, because there is durability on everything that you have. So you need to make sure to repair it, or have someone in the clan who has high enough armor working, or who's very familiar with it, I should say, where you could just give it to them and have them fix it or make you something new.
Yeah, my first 3 bows, I think I got maybe 3 arrows out on each of them before they like disintegrated. I was like, come on, man. And then I finally had a bow that lasted me a while. Yeah, so it's like Skyrim in that sense too, of your skills level up as you use more of them. It doesn't look like you can put things in them, and then as you level them up, you're able to eventually, when you get to a certain level, choose a perk as well.
Yeah, and as you can see, I mean, you can make a ton of different storage units. And you can rename stuff too, so that we don't have to worry about like trying to create signs and put them on stuff. So basically you could create barrels, you could create whole bows, bow chests or cloth chests or armor racks. Because you need to stay as organized as possible, because you've got 20 some odd people, which is kind of the downfall too. You have 20 people coming in who have different ideas of how to organize things or how not to organize things. There's a lot of people that just drop items on the floor, put them in the wrong containers. But it's really important to try to organize as much as possible. So you have different size containers for different storages. You can rename things, tell people, hey, put resin here, put salt here, put topaz here. And so at least hopefully everyone will be on the same, same foundation. But you never know, right? People will just throw stuff around like this. Here's some dropped items. And all dropped items look like they're in a barrel for whatever reason. And as you can see, this one has a spirit hatchet, for example.
So if I did want to build my personal base, for example, here, I have no clue how to start. What am I even looking at?
So what you have to do first is go into your construction.
Uh-huh.
And what you're looking for is to make a hammer. So under construction, you have personal base. So personal refineries, divinity seeds, personal stations. But then you have to look for where you can build the... Ironically, you have to build the building hammer. You can't just start building in the game.
Well, I don't even see it as a basic survival. Oh, construction hammer. Gotcha.
Yes, construction
There
hammer.
it is. Okay. All right, I need dross metal, whatever the fuck that means. Wherever I get it. Sweet.
So that is kind of the tough thing is that, but that we've noticed is that when you have to make stuff, even the most basic of tools, it takes a ton of resources, and some of those resources are hard to get. And so that's where you really need to rely on your clan, because a lot of people will be bringing in things for individual people. You know, like they'll bring in resources for everyone to use.
But what if you're like the first person on the server?
Right, exactly. That's where I'm saying that's where it's tough. Is that in a way they've made it so that way they're like, oh, well, there's 20 people in your clan. So, you know, with 20 people, you eventually will get all the resources you need so everyone can have a building hammer. But that's not always the case, right? And so I really hope they do make stuff like the building hammer a little bit easier to get to. Especially if you're just starting, because you don't know what any of this stuff is. You know, there's no like explanation to the resources. There's no tutorial to this game. They literally just throw you in. Actually, I think the only real tutorial that they have is when you log in. If you explore a little bit out in the way that I'm looking here, there are huge rune stones, and actually I'll run to them here. You can actually read them by hitting F, and they give you some hints. But they're not very specific. And a lot of other people have posted on Twitter, and the company has actually responded back saying, thank you for the feedback. We really appreciate it. We want to make sure that this is friendly for folks. So we're going to look into how we can implement a system. But right now, it really is trial by fire, or joining the official Rend Discord and, you know, getting your questions answered there.
I also feel like, at least from a business standpoint, it makes sense that you're making a game where you have to have a lot of people because they're gonna buy your game. Because you can be like, hey, I got this game, but I need people to play it. Will you join me?
Exactly. But it's also a risk too, though, because if people start dropping, you're not going to have enough numbers to play on any of the servers.
Yep.
And to really enjoy the game fully. And as you can see, there's all different kinds of animals. Some are ugly but friendly. Some are ugly but angry.
Some are ugly, but different things. Yeah, the stones, the obelisks here are very similar to at least remind me of Conan Exile as well.
Oh yeah, where you run up to the stones, they kind of tell you a little bit of the story of the world and stuff.
Yeah.
I'll run over there too, just to show folks as well. And there's several stones out here, and you can follow them with the runes that glow on them.
Alan, what kind of games do you usually play? Or are interested in? I wonder too if in the when the game gets fully released, they'll tell us more about these different factions, or if they're just sort of, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they do have a story on their website, so hopefully they introduce it. Like, I read that the Order, which is what we're in, they're all about being warlike. They're kind of like the barbarians. They love a good fight, and they love a good bloodbath. It's basically the story behind them. Which doesn't make sense if their name is Order, that they like disorder. But, you know, hey.
Well, they bring the order.
I guess so. I guess that is really the way.
It's amazing that in just these 3 runes, all that information is captured. Entire paragraph.
Entire paragraphs.
Entire paragraphs. Yeah, I also think that they need a little polish on the UI, but that's like always my sticking point with a lot of these games. Like, come on, just take a little bit and just polish it up for me, would you?
Yeah, the UI needs help. For instance here, anytime something pops up on the screen, because they do have like a little tutorial that randomly will pop up every once in a while going, hey, this is good for you. Hey, be careful of this. You can't like move your mouse because your mouse is controlled. It controls your character's movement from left to right, up and down, like where they're looking. And so when the tutorial pops up, there's like a little button that you're supposed to click on to hit close, but you can't close it because your person just wants to move. And so you have to actually bring up your inventory or the menu system and then you have a cursor, and then you can hit close. Like, their UI is a bit buggy right now. It definitely needs some polish. I mean, their attacking is okay, but it also doesn't... I don't know, it's nothing too exciting, like the actions of the characters with their combat. Like, the new combat system that was implemented in Conan is great. It's beautiful. And the combat changes based on the weapon you have. But in this game, the combat is very, very simple. Not saying it's bad, it's just, it is very, very simple.
I also find it interesting that they're going from an alpha directly into, like, release game.
It's a bit, it is a little bit concerning, because even though they could have the best intentions, and this game is really cool, it really is, like, I've enjoyed the hell out of it, but between the UI, there's a lot of rubber banding on servers for the ping to be very high in North America when we're in North America. Like, those are all concerns I definitely have, especially when you release it in early access. If they get a lot more interest in people playing it, is how are things going to respond and work? There are times where when I hit resources, I don't know if it'll do it this time, now that I've brought it up, but there are times where when I hit resources, I sometimes can't hit them. And there are times, too, where I can't actually, nothing's gonna ever keep you down. Dalmaz!
What up? 4 months in a row. Thank you so much for that tier 1 sub. Welcome back to the brand stream. What do you mean we look cartoonish? This is the way we look like all the time. I don't know what you're talking about. It's like totally us.
But yeah, thank you, Dal. Appreciate that, man. Thank you for coming back to 4 months in a row, bud. Great having you. But yeah, with this game, though, and actually, yeah, let's get some hypes in chat. I'm like going between kind of like explanation mode and like so many other modes.
I don't see the mouse moving. I haven't even started to drink yet. Hey, Josh.
How's it going, Josh? But yeah, so, you know, sometimes resources when you're hitting them will just disappear. And then you have to like run around a little bit and then they reappear. So like whole trees will disappear, rocks will disappear. It's very strange. So I feel like there's some issues with netcoding in the game, which is, for people who play multiplayer games, netcoding is the bane of everyone's existence. Because you really need to start off a game with really strong netcode. And if things are disappearing, reappearing, you're rubber banding, people look like they're flying across the map, that's an issue. So I'm hoping that this is just because of the alpha, and they're trying to only put in the stuff they really want to test, and a lot of that stuff will be fixed, but we can't say, right? We don't have a crystal ball to look into for that.
Oh, hello, gorgeous stag. No, don't run away. Oh, man.
So, because I've been just really excited, and I've been playing this the most between the two of us, I just really wanted to dive into the general aspects of that. This is survival, this is building, this is team-based, it's PvE and PvP. You can't go in this alone. You have to work as a team because you're not going to enjoy the game, because you're not going to get the full benefits of the game. But also, there's one other aspect. So you can raid each other's bases. There are also points of interest on the map where if you claim them and own them, you get different perks and benefits. And if you defeat factions that control those areas, you can then get bonus experience, money, and other factions. So there's a lot of things that you can do in this game to fight to stay competitive, but those aren't even the largest or biggest events in the game. The biggest event in the game happens right now weekly on the alpha servers, but will potentially happen once a month on the full release servers, and that is what's called the Reckoning. So do you want to dive into what the Reckoning is, Tatiana?
From what I understand, things start to attack you when they come from the spirit realm, I guess. The shield goes down that's around your base, and then shit goes down, right?
Sort of, yeah. So, yeah, basically this is where the Reckoning happens, like I said, once a week, once a month, depending on the server. They're still trying to they're still trying to figure out what people are going to be happy with. But as you can see, there's this little bit of shield here that protects you. And so no one can attack you PvP-wise or PvE-wise with this shield up. At least not your base. But yes, exactly. It's kind of like 7 Days to Die with their Horde Knight. So basically the spirit realm in the realm we're in, the boundaries thin. And so what happens are these lost souls, these ghosts or these spirits from the spirit realm come in to attack your base. So your shield goes down, they attack your base, and they're trying to get to your core or to your divinity seed, which is that tree-like structure in the center of your base. And because they want the spirits you've collected. And if they collect your spirits, that meter that's on the tree in the distance there, that meter will go down. And so you're further away from getting to the top where you can ascend to Valhalla. And so, again, you have to make sure to defend yourself against those. And all the different lost souls are different. So they are very unique. Some are very much battle beasts that are monstrous and need, you know, like 20 people to take down. Some only need maybe 1 to 5 people to take down, but they're very quick. And it's the same thing with 7 Days to Die, where you have all different kinds of zombies. Some are just very tanky, some are very quick, some just do high damage output, some are range, some actually can do like a melee attack, some can cast. So you have to be very careful, and they're looking to actually expand the number of lost souls they're going to put in and the types that you come across as well. So you have to defend your base, but the caveat here is too that your shield goes down. If you defeat all the lost souls, your shield still stays down for like another good 15 to 20 minutes, which means then a faction, after they're done with their reckoning, can come in and wipe you out. So if the lost souls really work down your defenses, and let's say they took out these palisades and they knocked down your entire wall here, it's prime for another faction to come in and loot as much as possible and take your spirits, take your resources, and run.
Although it doesn't seem like the factions are very close to each other, so I mean, I wouldn't know how much running they'd really have to do to get here.
Exactly. They'd have to really work at it. And that's potentially where Taming comes in. Yeah. Because if you have your whole clan on wolves or other really fast beasts, that's going to cut down the travel time drastically. And if you have really big monstrous beasts that's kind of like using them as siege weapons, they can also tear down your base very quickly. But that you're not going to see a lot of that until most likely end game.
I have no idea where the fuck I died. This is so frustrating.
That's true. Yeah, they give you no markers. You have no maps. So if you lose your body, it's pretty much just lost unless you remember where exactly you were.
This is so annoying. I just find that really frustrating because, like, if you're in a starting area, something shouldn't hit you twice and then kill you. And the bleed shouldn't be like, holy crap.
Yeah, the bleed is nasty. And the thing is,
you have to stop running to put a bandage on. But if you stop running, you put the bandage on, and then they hit you again, and then it's like, what's the point?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a little bit of a
annoyance.
It's not a very solid system, I feel like, especially for low levels in the low level area where you have multiple things can kill you very quickly. Yeah, it's tough, and this is again why it's so difficult to just solo in this game as well. Another reason. Mario Man says, just cracked open an 1893 ginger cola and munching on Doritos with the stream on one monitor and Warframe on the other. Nice. Enjoy that ginger cola and those Doritos, sir. The ginger cola is actually really hella good. I will not lie.
So now I have to like rebuild all my stuff that I just spent like, why are you attacking me, dude? Like, go away. Damn it, man. Hey,
Christoph, how's it going, bud? How is your Sunday?
Hey, Drunk.
Yeah, so ignore your base and just raid everyone. I mean, you could. You could, but the thing is that you have to build up your armor, your weapons, and you actually have to construct stuff and gather resources in the first place for you to get anything good that's worth its salt in order to raid. So that's the thing. You could try to just raid everything, but they've put in systems into this world what makes it very difficult to just go and do that. They've really done a good job of thinking things through and trying to find balance for the most part, But of course, just like any other early access game, alpha game, there are some things you look at and go, that's not going to work. And hopefully they get that feedback, which is why they have something like this, with it, which is the closed alpha, to try to get a sense of those things.
I have to say, it always boggles my mind when I play a new game where I'm like, how did they miss this seemingly obvious shit? Like, who is playtesting this?
Yeah.
Why are they so dumb? I don't know. Because some things are just like, no, that's stupid. That's literally just the dumbest thing ever.
Oh, and by the way, folks, too, besides, things like poison, which you can get, you can also have bleed damage. You can also have to worry about temperature. If it gets too cold or too hot, you can actually be hurt by that as well. So it's very much all the hardcore elements of survival games that you're used to are in Rend.
Except you can't see if it's hot or cold. But not on your interface.
It tells you. It tells you when you're too hot or too cold.
Ah, good. So.
And also, there is a little meter on the lower left-hand corner that's above your weight. Or no, those are spirits, actually. Never mind. But yeah, it will tell you. Yeah, there isn't like a gauge. That's right. There isn't a gauge that tells you, hey, you're getting to the point of being too cold or too hot. But there is a gauge, or there is a warning that pops up that does say, hey, you're too hot or you're too cold.
Sticky sap. Let me out of the menu. God damn.
So yeah, so just as, we put in cinema mode so that way you could see. You have your water, your hydration, you have your food, you have your weight, the number of spirits you can have, which is up to 23, which you gather and then bring to your base. You have your health bar here, and then you have your stamina bar here, and then your experience is the purple down at the bottom here. You also have your ammo, you have your bow, you have what tool is currently equipped. If you have different passive abilities, you have these as well, or active abilities, they'll be listed here. And then you have basically your item hotbar. So you can have things like your bandages, your food here, really anything you could pretty much put into that quick bar. Hey, Red Siskin, how's it going? Happy Sunday to you.
Artwork is a plus. I like the style. Yeah, the graphics look very, very nice.
Yeah, they had a really good art team on here. Like I said, I think the biggest issue right now is like net coding and a few other like server-based elements, as well as just maybe a little bit more informative information on like getting started into the world if you're brand new, especially to like survival games or to this type of game, which again requires you both to do PvE and PvP. There's no in between. So Red, this is the closed alpha, and as of the 31st, they're going to close down the alpha and jump right into early access, which I'm a little concerned about because I would want to see a closed beta first and actually have them go through the beta and then release it into early access, but they're kind of jumping steps here. I guess you could say that their early access is a paid beta. Kind of like Tarkov in a way, where Tarkov is still considered in beta, but you pay for it in advance. Like, you have to pay for the game.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that you like it. I have died so many times that I don't give a shit anymore. I'm just like walking around trying to care about this game, but everything is killing me. And I don't know, I'm like not interested with playing with other people, I guess, in some ways, like that many people, like the fact that potentially would have to work with 20 people, plus like it's only 20 people that they allow on the server at the same time for each faction, so that doesn't mean that there can't be more than 20 people in that faction, really. and then just having to like, what happens if you have to, like we did the other day where I, you know, like couldn't connect and I was just waiting in a queue forever. I don't know. Those things to me are really frustrating.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Then I have to try to server hop.
Yeah.
Now I will say though, it does seem that there is an end game, by the way, folks. So, you know, as I said, you're trying to raise the spirits up. You're trying to gather enough to get to the top so that way you can all ascend to Valhalla. So what happens then, right? Like what happens then, right? Like what is the end game that occurs whenever you get to that point? Well, my assumption is, and again, it's because none of us in Alpha have reached that point yet, is that the server wipes. So whether it's after months, whether it's after weeks, it could vary too, depending on the server settings they want to implement. But the whole server, I'm guessing, will wipe and you start from zero again. So that way, then you have to compete once again to be the faction that ascends back up to Valhalla. And that's the only way of really doing this game, right? Because you can't just keep going into this unending battle back and forth of trying to get spirits left and right, left and right, left and right. So it seems like that's going to be the way they're going to take the game. So, you know, Tatiana mentioned that there's nothing kind of more nerve-wracking than jumping onto a server brand new, like many people have for this game, because they've given out a lot of alphas. And, you know, there have been people that just joined us as of today, even though, you know, the closed server's been around for a little over a week now. So with that, you're going to see new people hop on. But when you're new and you see this already done, you go, oh shit, what do I do? Where do I go? Like, you know, what am I, how do I fit in here? Because I'm just such a low level and I haven't done anything. I still haven't even figured out the game. Well, it seems like luckily you're going to come across enough servers that have already wiped that you'll eventually get into something where you are starting off and helping build from the very beginning. But the problem is, you've got to jump around and figure out which server that is. Makes sense? Yeah.
And which faction's not a dick on that server.
Right, that's the problem. The problem we faced on this server was the fact that there were like 5 or 6 people that decided to create their own private Discord, and supposedly like were like promoting it in the chat, but like basically no one ever saw it, and most people assumed they were actually sharing the official Rend Discord, where people were like, no, I'm already in the official Rend Discord, I don't need to join the Discord. They weren't communicating with anyone. So basically you had these 6 people who are using Discord with everyone else on the server not knowing this, and they were basically communicating and just building stuff and not telling anyone else. And then they would get pissed off and start yelling at random people when they started building stuff, because they're like, well, you're not communicating with us, you're not in our Discord. And people are like, well, how the hell do I get into your Discord? Why did you create one? Like, why aren't you So there are a lot of issues with communication that you're going to see, but that's not the game. That's not because of the game, that's because of people. And you're going to run across that in every single game. Every game.
Making a home. With a construction hammer, you can switch to build mode by pressing B. The structures you build in build mode will not be claimed until you place a divinity seed on them. You can also use these divinity seeds to transport your spirit to another divinity seed, but you will leave behind your material possessions. Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of the fast travel too. You can, if you have areas that you own as a personal, as an individual, or as a faction, you can fast travel to those areas. But as Tatiana just read, you leave everything of possession behind. And I think that's so that way people don't use that fast travel to raid. You know, like they don't just like build something over here next to our base and then just all teleport there and they all are fully geared, ready to rock us, right? Like they're trying to avoid that, which is good. But it's frustrating if you're trying to just get from point to point without trying to do that. But again, you have to try to balance things out. So it isn't easy. No one said that trying to understand human psychology would ever be freaking easy.
Congrats for making it to the top. Now you're back down.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's like the world looks so pretty.
And you can absolutely explore it. There are people on here who are like, hey, who wants to just explore? Who wants to try to do some PvP if we come across anyone? You know, let's do some hunting parties. Like, people have done that too, and you have time to a point to do that. So you don't have to feel like, because in 7 Days to Die, I feel like we always feel like we have to like constantly be fixing up defenses, building new defenses, because we only have 7 in-game days before the next Horde Night comes. And so it gets a little bit harder to sometimes be able to travel out and just see what else is out there. This game gives you a little bit more breathing room where you can get away with that, which is pretty nice too.
Oh, it looks like we're on one of these floaty things, huh?
Oh, like we're on one of those floating rocks?
It looks like it. I'm like at the edge of one.
Oh, yeah. You can look down and you just see nothing but sky. This is why I said it also kind of reminds me of Dauntless. Because Dauntless is very much like that.
Yikes.
You're on different worlds and you have to fly between them.
Oh, look at this person. This person like building a fort out here.
Oh yeah, they've been doing that since pretty much like day 2 or 3.
Oh, and there's fall damage. So sad.
Yes, there is fall damage.
I wasn't even, like, I didn't even jump. I just sort of skidded down. Come on.
Well, the fall damage is wonky anyway, because I've dropped from pretty high places and landed and started running, and then it showed that I got hit by fall damage. So there is a little bit of a weird delay as well, I've noticed, between when you actually hit and taking damage. In this game, though, you can definitely tell when you take damage. Absolutely. But sometimes a little oddly delayed.
Ooh, copper ore. Oh, no, you don't. No. Motherfucker. If I die again, I'm just logging off. I don't care. I am at my limit with this frustration of dying all the fucking time. Still coming for me.
So, are there any questions in chat? Again, there's a lot to this game. Like, there are a lot of different layers. Between building your base up, investing points for the entire clan, so everyone in that faction, I should say, so everyone in that faction can build and increase from tier 1 to tier 2 building, where things have more armor, better defenses, everything from storage and being able to organize, change the names of the different storage things to keep things in place so you know what's what. Having taming like an arc, where again different beasts will either be mounts, they can also be resource gatherers, they can be hunters with you, they could do a multitude of things. But then also, again, the survival aspect, getting your food, having debuffs as well as buffs in the game based on what you're doing, having the need for food and water, having NPCs that attack or not attack. There's a lot of elements, and you're not going to get it right away, especially us explaining it. Like, no matter how we explain it, there's still so many elements to it that you really just kind of have to jump in and try it.
I wish you could do things as you're running. I hope that they change that.
Yeah, because right now, there's your normal kind of stride, and if you hold on shift, you run, and you burn through your stamina. And right now, when you do that, when you hold on your shift, you can't do anything else. You can't eat, you can't drink, you can't even attack. So you have to get out of the sprint mode, and then you can do all of that.
Just wanted to look at this guy's house. Or this lady's. There we go. They have a pretty good foundation started there. Little tower going on. Not bad.
Yeah, they've been really going to town.
Nice views, you know.
But it does take a lot of resources to build in this game, though. And I think it's to deter people from doing too many personal things again, and focusing in on the clan and the end game.
I need me flint to build. I don't know what. What am I building? Oh, campfire. That's right. Okay. Oh, actually, there's a shit ton of campfires everywhere. What am I doing? I can just use it. That's interesting too, that you can just use anyone's campfire.
Yeah, it's like in some ways though, it's kind of nice. Less to worry about.
But then it's like there's campfires everywhere.
Yeah, that is true too. And what I've noticed as well is that let's say you break down a rock. So you have this massive rock on this space and you break it down. Suddenly, you decide, hey, you know what? Building a campfire here will be really good. As soon as you build that campfire, that rock can respawn and cover up that campfire.
What?
For whatever reason, they have not put a system into this game yet where the things that respawn see that there's stuff there unless it's building material. So, like, literally, if you build certain things like a campfire, it could just be covered up by a resource, like a rock or a tree, and then you can't get to it until you break that resource down.
That's silly.
So that was a bit strange, because I've not seen that in a game yet. Usually people are pretty good about that.
Skogar fruit. Oh, I can eat this thing. Hold on. Eating it. Alright, how is this campfire still going? There's no fuel. There's no nothing. I turned it off. Okay, I don't know. You have fun with that fire.
And so this is someone's personal base here. You can see who owns it, and only that person has access to it. Like, I can't get into their place, even though we're a part of the same faction.
So you share all sorts of things except not home.
Which, I guess, makes sense, right? You don't want someone screwing with your stuff, even if they are part of your own faction. You know, real people, you don't know what they're going to do. Actually, I'm going to hunt a pig here, because I need some feed.
I've got poppies for days. Poppies are good for bandages and then heal potions as well. That you can only use when you've stopped. When you have stopped running.
And there is headshot damage in here, by the way. So if enemies have weak points, like the head, you will do more damage. That I thought was pretty nice. So I'm going to cook this food up, and I'm close to leveling as well, so I can show you the level process when that happens.
So I'm going to try to make some clothes again. I've made clothes so many times, you'd think that I would like level up in clothes making, but I guess not. How do people get the different... Oh, it is armor. I see. That's how...
Correct. Full nudity is not an option in this game, unlike Conan. I think they're trying to make this a bit friendlier for most ages.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is definitely kid friendly. I think even in the killing, like Evan said, there's not that much realism to it in some ways. It's not like blood and gore in quite the same way. I wish I could, like, see my character. I mean, I know you can see the character. Like, you can't see it from the front. It's weird.
Alright, so I just leveled. I just dinged.
Ding!
So I hit level 13.
Congrats.
Thanks. So now, as I said, all your building skills, all your crafting skills, that's based on everyone. So your whole entire clan has to invest these little what's called sparks, sparks of genius, sparks of adventure, etc. And they get this by just interacting with the world, and they bring them back to these different stones, and they unlock more stuff for you to be able to build. But as I said, you have 4 archetypes, 2 classes that you could pick from as your core classes. And so with that, you can, when you level up, spend your points in those.
I'm gonna put that up on that.
And so what's nice is the fact that these skills, this is something I actually really like about the skills here. They're not all attack and defense. So they're not like, oh cool, I could cast a shield on someone and then I can blight them and do like a DOT or something. No, like with this game too, it impacts the resources. So like for instance, Twilight Reaper, increase your harvesting speed at night by 2% per rank. So that's awesome, because that means at night, if I really want to get a ton of harvesting done, that is the time to do it. I run out there, I can get way more harvesting done, get way more resources, and really be able to help out my clan or really help build out my personal base that much faster. So they've really thought out the skills. It's not just about attacking, it's not about defending or destroying. It's also about like how you interact with the world, how fast you do it, how well you do it. I think that's really intelligent. I really do like that concept.
Seriously though, where do you get dross metal from? I kept thinking it would pop out of these stones for some reason, but I'm guessing not. How'd you make your first construction hammer?
I just grabbed the resources from the clan, because ideally, when you're building, like I needed a build hammer so I could help them build. So I used the clan materials that people were storing in there, so that way I could actually build that hammer and start building and helping them out.
Right, but like...
So someone else grabbed the dross metal. I grabbed all the wood and all the stone and everything else I needed. It was just the dross metal I couldn't find. But we had a whole group of it in the forge.
Ooh, it's thin leather. Now I can make a water skin randomly. Somebody dropped this. No. Nope. Don't you fucking come after me.
So, as you can see here in the menu, I leveled up in my archetype. You have 1 skill point per level. And you have your spells. As you can see, I'm not really much of a spellcaster. You also have a pet section. But then you have what's called Ascension. So what's nice is as your clan develops over time, and this is another benefit to working with your clan, is that you get benefits. So you get a lot more benefits, a lot more abilities and things to help increase your experience, how much you can carry, among other things. So if your clan is doing a really good job of collecting spirits and investing into skill points, you have different tiers here. So like combat, I can increase my maximum health. Non-combat, I can increase my carrying capacity. The experience I gain, the skill experience that I gain. There's also cosmetics. So if you want to change your hairdo, your beard, you have those options. There's also some things for construction, which we haven't unlocked yet, and other. So that's a kind of an... I like that, honestly. I think that's kind of a neat system. So there's multiple ways of improving your individual character. One is through the clan, and then one is through yourself. And if you are a really tight-knit clan, you're really working and staying on task, you're going to be very, very powerful.
It says I need water to make the salve of poppy, but how do you get
so basically, you have to run down to the water. You have to run down to a lake, and as long as you have either like a bladder or a water bag...
Oh, okay, so I can't.
Yeah, then you fill that up and you run it back. That's the other thing, actually. Water bags in this game can leak. So if you have a really shitty water bag, you're going to lose a lot of your water quickly. If you have a really good one, you won't have to worry about that.
Oh, look, the water keeps going down every time I drink it. Interesting.
Yeah, the little watering holes, it's kind of neat how it does that.
Don't you attack me. Don't you do it, pig.
Yeah, it looks like we got a lot of turnover here, too, with the people that are on this server, because most of these are brand new names I have not seen on this server yet. And currently, too, by the way, there doesn't seem to be a shortcut to, like, click and have something jump over to another inventory slot. It does look like you have to click and drag thus far.
You can, if you right-click, you can split.
Yes.
So.
Yep, you can split and drop, but you can't just auto have it pop over to, like, another inventory.
And there's some things you can salvage too.
Yeah, and there are times too, there's inventory bugs.
Stuff.
So as you could see here, actually, I've got this little thing in this square, but I don't know what it is. And there are times where either the image doesn't show and load, or it shows that there's something kind of there. So I don't know. There are slight bugs currently with the inventory system.
So now these spirity wisps things, when we get them, what does that do again? See, it fills up my little spirit meter. Yep,
you bring them to the divinity stone and give it to the divinity stone, and it helps move the meter up on that tree in the far distance. It gets us one step closer to Valhalla.
Oh, okay. It's so sad. It's like, it's so pretty here. Why would you want to go to Valhalla? Unless it's like some sort of limbo and we're all dead already.
Well, that's my assumption, to be honest. Because it wasn't really clear to me, but that's my assumption based on the strangenesses that we come across. Like,
oh, okay, that we're in limbo?
Yeah.
Man, there's some gigantic animals around here for, like, no reason. Why are you guys here? You guys coming to Valhalla too?
Ready to party? And I'll run to another zone here just to show y'all what it looks like. And there is no loading. You know, many larger games, a lot of times, even though they try to make it more open world, there's places where you have to zone and let your computer load everything. Here, though, everything is runnable. You just run to it, and it tells you when it changes over to a new area.
Eating the food fast does stack, which is nice. The Order Stronghold. I wonder where this shield comes from.
Right. There are some things in here that just don't really get explained. Oop, there's that rubber banding.
Are you running towards the tree? Is that way?
No. Oh, to the big tree? I'm running to the big tree. I always get rubber banding in weird areas, though.
Oh, yeah, that happens all the time. Tree is pretty.
Oh yeah, and there's also an announcement that tells you whenever anyone's outpost, whenever their shields go down. And that way it can kind of help you figure out whether you want to actually attack or not. Oh, this big boy has lots of HP.
Oh, there's a cave here. Oh, just with water.
In caves, there are bears and wolves.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm bringing a friend.
I'm hitting in the butt.
Yeah, see, now because it ran too far, it fully healed and it's running away.
Too far. Too sad. So sad. Oh, it's some people built up here too, huh? More towers. More towers. Oh, damn. It's not a tower at all. Wow, some people were here a long time.
Or just spent a lot of hours.
Holy crap, this is even bigger than I thought it was. Alright, well that's gonna do it for me. Fucking dying all the time.
Oh yeah, and sometimes I've noticed too, you're supposed to use your tools to hit the spirits here, like these will-o-wisps, to collect them. Sometimes you can just knock the piss out of them and they don't get collected. They don't do what they're supposed to. So it seems like there's a little bit of a glitch with them as well with that. It's like I'm hitting them, but nothing. So yeah, there is that.
It takes a few hits too, I've noticed.
I got your stuff. So yeah, I would say, you know, is this definitely worth playing? If you understand and want to do PvE and PvP and understand... here, I can drop the stuff off too if you want. Oh yeah, there doesn't seem to be any trading either.
Stop hitting me.
I'm trying to figure out a way of, like, doing something, but yeah, I don't think there's any trading, but...
Just a giant barrel appears. Well, you can't do that in Conan either, can you? I'm trying to remember. I feel like it was just a sack that drops, you know?
Yeah, I think you probably just had to drop it in there too, actually, when I think about it. Oh yeah, and as you saw too, so I accidentally hit Tatiana here, and it says you have lost 0.246 faction rep. So again, you harm your order, you harm your faction. Ours happens to be the order. You will lose faction, good standing, if you will. But like I was saying though, you know, is this game a lot of fun? Yes, if you understand PvE and PvP, and you can't just solo, and you have to work together as a team, and you're willing to do that, it is absolutely fun and definitely worth checking out. If it's not, go to something like Conan Exiles or some other game, because this probably won't be for you. And there's been some people that came on here said, oh, I didn't realize it was so team-based. Mm-hmm. So they said, yeah, I'm probably not going to get the game then, because that's just not for me. And it's like, that's totally fair. I mean, I've had a lot of fun with it, even with some of the hiccups. But again, you know, do I want to buy this early access as of the 31st this month? Not really, because I want to see what they do. I want to see where it goes. And honestly, I would have felt more comfortable if they had a longer alpha and an actual beta period, but they're not putting that in. And to me, that concerns me. It's not an insult to them, but it is an insult to the game industry, because that's where things are going now. And so many people have been burnt on early access games. And so that is truly my concern with this game, is that, you know, especially, or what if people lose interest and you see a drastic drop in servers, or in the number of people on a server? You can't play because you basically have no one to compete against, or you have 3 people in your faction. That's nice. The other 2 factions have 20.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if this was a faster game, like Fortnite, right? Where you could just come in, play for 20-30 minutes per game, that would be one thing. I think then they could get the people no problem. But because this game kind of requires a unique type of individual, because you need to have the patience to build and to gather resources and to work together towards a common goal, and like that kind of mentality. But at the same time, you can't really do a lot just for yourself, or, you know, it doesn't really help the whole game as a whole. And it's really hard to, from what I've noticed, to just do things by yourself. So now you're asking somebody who potentially is into like slower, more, you know, kind of time-consuming activities that yield, you know, tangible results in game for yourself, to kind of put that aside and then potentially have to find servers where there's people, where there's not. You have to like play with others. But you're also asking somebody who maybe enjoys things like Fortnite, where, hey, I just want a 20-minute game where I go in, I do some things with some people, there's like a bunch of people around me, you know, whether I PvP the hell out of them or I PvE with them or I do co-op. But I still have to like build, I have to like grind, I have to do all this other stuff. Like, it's very interesting. I'm hoping there's a market for their sake. I think the game is beautiful, and I love some of the things that they have implemented, but at this stage, not knowing what the, I guess, full release is going to look like I have a hard time, one, caring about the factions and like building it up and all this other stuff, because it doesn't feel, you know, there's no story, I guess, to like keep me engaged. I'm only here for the pretty visuals, and they don't, you know, like I'm not gonna.
That can only do so much.
Yeah, and then, you know, having this sense of, oh, I'm teamed up with a bunch of strangers to some degree, because I don't know 20 people who would want to play this game with me, you know, and even if I did, you know, to kind of coordinate that we're all sort of, well, maybe not on at the same time, but like to coordinate something like what essentially is project management. You know, that's hard. That's hard to do even when you know people, when you know the people and you work well together with them.
Oh yeah, well, and I think too, to go off that, is the fact that a lot of times you'll probably end up going to get the shaft. In the sense of, if you want to build, well, too bad. The faction already has, you know, 5 builders or 2 builders. Let them do it so there's not too many cooks in the kitchen. Okay, well, but I don't want to farm resources. Yeah, but that's what we need, so you're just going to have to do that.
Right, exactly.
You know, as an example, you know, and if you hate the grind, because it will become a grind too. There are elements of a grind. So, you know, if you hate the grind of, say, things maybe like even like Warframe or trying to think, or like Conan Exiles or things like that, this probably won't be the game for you. It's just really hard to try to avoid it. Now, I like grinding to a point if I could see that it does have some sort of benefit. So I didn't really have
to zen on it, yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't have too many issues with it myself with this game. But, you know, for those that might, that's just good to know in advance, right? But I think to a point, you're going to get the shaft in what you want to do. Oh, well, I want to build weapons. Well, too bad. We already got people doing that. You know what I mean? So it's going to be difficult to really do what you want to do in the game you played.
Sounds more like a second job than a game. Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's like, it's a super creative idea. It's an awesome concept. But because you are working with 20-some random people, it's tough. It is super, super tough. So, you know, I would say if we had to rate this game thus far, I mean, I would probably give it like a 6 or 7. Probably a 7 with all the originality or ingenuity they've utilized in the different aspects of the game. But otherwise, I mean, it's definitely not complete yet, you know, and it definitely needs a lot of work and a lot of figuring out of how you can really truly work with people in this game. But it's very cool. The art team did an amazing job. Implementing the different aspects of the game, they did an awesome job as well. So, overall, I'm going to go to the 2-person here, actually. I'm going to exit the game. There we go. I just don't feel like running to try to get the water and food right now. But yeah, so that was Rend. That was it in its general entirety. I mean, again, we wanted to get on a server where it hadn't just started and where things were already built up to show you what you could work toward. But again, you got to work toward it. So you got to make sure you're active. And it's kind of tough too, right? Because like if your reckoning is every week, you're almost like one of those people who had that very fixed schedule when you were on like WoW or EverQuest, where you had those hardcore guilds that they're like, we raid every single night, so you must be free from these times.
Right.
And I think in a way this game could be something like that. So if you're looking for a more casual play, this also might not be the game for you. Potentially, depending on the server, depending the people on that server.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that like in WoW you couldn't build your own stuff, but I know that when Skyrim came around and, you know, then ESO and everything like that, I was like, that's what I like about that, though, that you can, you know, if you want to play with other people, great, go for it. If you want to be part of a team, if you want to be part of a really large team, if you want to be casual here and there, if you want to play by yourself, if you want to do a mixture of both, you can do all of that, which is cool. Like, that's my game style. And, you know, and in WoW, like, you know, couldn't build things, but you could, you know, do your own quests if you want to. If you never really wanted to talk to another person ever, you could never really ever have to talk to another person ever. So yeah, I'm definitely, yeah, it's a very unique game. It looks beautiful though. It sure does.
It really